6 Minutes Season 5. The Season of Unknowingness. The final chapter of the 6 Minute sequel.
There are kids in this world who are different. Special.
One of them found us.
And became family.
But her time ran out. And now, that girl is missing.
In this episode, I'll be breaking down the latest episode, 6 Minutes Season 5, piece by piece. Hey Review Pop listeners, it's Cyrus, Landon Mueller. We're here today talking about the second episode of Season 5, A World Without Robotics Competition Victories, is quite the title, and it does say a lot about this episode because I think it's so great, and, it's so great to be back with the Anders family, and, just really hear them develop as characters, and, hearing this whole new dynamic is kind of what I mean. Cyrus is great as always, and, it's just been really fun to see and, I guess get used to this, kind of new format of they don't remember anything. And it's similar to kind of what we saw in Season 4, and I think it works super well. The other thing I really enjoyed about this episode is it sets up an entirely new cliffhanger, and it's really exciting to be back, and, it's amazing, so... Let's get straight into this one.
Wait, that's the old house they're going in. The one that Magnus burned down.
Except in this timeline, it never happened. None of it did.
We're going back to such an iconic place and all the memories that brings, and I think it's really interesting having Holiday look in on this and, never thinking that'd be a part of her life again, but now her family is back there, and I think that's a really interesting, thought and idea. I think it's interesting, getting used to this void, and something I didn't mention in the last episode, I wasn't able to get to it, Holiday and Brynleigh being able to float, I think that's super interesting, and there's so many layers to the void which we didn't originally know about in the finale of Season 4.
Ew, not her.
Team Brainy Brynleigh takes home first place despite missing their captain, Brynleigh Pasternak.
I think it's interesting how we kind of said Brynleigh Pasternak at the end in a sort of way remembering who she is. Not really remembering who she is, but having that recollection aspect that we were kind of talking about in the finale of Season 4. And I think it works really well having, this happen and robotics still being a big part of Cyrus's life despite all the things that have changed. And I think I could have guessed that, right? Because from when he was born and Monica really influencing him in a sort of way, and he moved to science, and, that's such a big part of his life. And I think it's awesome, and, I think it's great that we have this entirely new storyline set up for Cyrus. That'll be really interesting to see how that goes.
What has caused your malfunction?
It all started at Elixir Academy, a school that's not on a map. Brynleigh went there searching for answers to questions she didn't even know she had. Only, turns out, Elixir
what does this have to do with...
and there were anomalies everywhere.
Anomalies? What anomalies? What are you talking about?
It's interesting, something that's been brought up on Rewind of and I talked about this in the last episode, Cybot's role in Season 5. Right, he's the messenger, really. He knows all this stuff. Cyrus didn't really pick up on any of it, right? I can imagine why, right? Why would he? And so I think it's super interesting that, Cybot really is, will be a big part of Season 5, and just how time travel works with robots, and I guess alternating time, not necessarily time travel anymore. either way, I think it'll be really cool. And, hearing Cyrus run these diagnostics is great. Cybot is so great, and I love Cybot as a character, and he's, funny, and, yeah, I mean, it's great.
Taking you away from your parents. Birdie and Cyrus losing their sister. Losing my friend forever? No, thank you.
Did you just say I'm your friend?
Of course you are. And what's the point of proving I'm better if I can't rub it in your face? I mean, share it with you.
Gosh, I really love this, and there's so much to it. Really says a lot about Holiday and Brynleigh's dynamic and their relationship in general. And, we can look back on previous seasons and, obviously they've gotten close in the past, right? Especially in season 2, they really started to understand each other in a way they hadn't before. And that was, of course, great, and that said a lot about them. However, I think this is obviously different, right? We've waited 5 seasons to hear, that they're actually friends, and there's a lot of room for them to grow as friends in season 5, being trapped together in the void. But it feels so great, and I love her bringing up Cyrus, and if it hadn't been for Holiday, she would have never gotten close to Cyrus. And one of my favorite memories of Holiday and Brynleigh is when they're in the snowstorm in season 1, and Holiday is spilling her guts to Brynleigh and who she is and everything she knew at the time. And that's just such an iconic moment and says a lot about them.
In the middle school hallway.
Huh? Oh, wow, look at that.
And it's gone.
I did that?
Well, it wasn't me.
So, I just thought of a place and manifested it.
The Void is such an interesting place, and, we're learning about the River of Time and how that works and how that plays a role in everything. And, in the previous episode, Holiday had kind of mentioned following the water, to get back home, and I don't think that's necessarily how it works, and either way, I think it's super cool, and, I really enjoy this. But being back in the middle school cafeteria also and hearing Cyrus and them talk is so iconic, and I think it works really well. And, it definitely made me feel super happy as, a listener. And one thing's for sure about season 5, I think there's a lot of nostalgia, especially as we get, being with Cyrus and in the lab. It's great.
He's just spewing gobbledygook.
My least favorite kind of gook.
He went on some crazy rant about a school that's not on a map, and time portals, and hoverboards, and who knows what else.
I think it's interesting, the fact that the Wit kids are still around, right? And what does that say about what Dr. Whittier did after, his daughter stayed alive? And is Whittier Corp a happy and safe environment? Or something that'll be talked about in the Casey books I've heard is whether or not the Wit kids were from an outside source and just went straight into the lab after birth, or how that really worked, and that'll be talked about in the books. But as of now, I think it's really interesting of did Dr. Whittier do things the right way and be kind to the Wit kids and give them a happy and safe environment, unlike what they had with Angelica Graves.
Any idea how to fix it?
Bring him by the robotics lab after school tomorrow. If we can't figure it out, we're probably better off wiping his memory and starting over.
The door, it opens, it closes.
Right, I think it's interesting what's going on with Cyrus and Casey. I mean, relationship-wise. And Jess kind of brought this up on Rewind of maybe they had dated in the past, and I think that's certainly a possibility. I'm a little bit on the fence about it though. But I think either way, it's really interesting, and I'd love to hear about, what's happened with them and, their dynamic now and how things have changed and how things have stayed the same.
No.
It worked! Look at this place. Excuse me, Holiday?
No.
Yes, Brynleigh. We're here together. Just as we were always meant to be.
It says a lot about the rules of time and, so much, and it's a lot to, I guess, wrap your head around and, think this is how it all works now, and it's very complicated and very interesting, and, Jude will be a big part of Season 5, I'm already guessing. Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a 5-star review. Until next time, this is Landon saying peace, love, and time travel.